Are the current standings going to hold until the end of the season? Does Mr. 69 know exactly when Shohei Ohtani will be back on the bump? And the Minnesota Twins Mount Rushmore. Who made the cut? All that and more on this week's episode of Closers. Welcome back to Closers, and we have a lot to talk about this week. So what are we going to do? We're going to bring in Mr. 69, David Aardsma.
What's up, buddy? What is going on, James? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show.
How we doing?
Doing good. My beard looks great.
Yeah.
I'll be all right, though.
You need to go the Keith Hernandez route. Not being a douchebag, but just adding the just for men.
Spit on people?
Spit on people, pretend you're a nice guy, be a giant doucher. You know, basically the Trevor Bauer syndrome.
That is attacking. You are attacking Keith Hernandez. You're in a fiery mood already.
I am in a fiery mood. Well, you got to understand, my competitive spirit has been reignited playing softball again. So now I'm just an angry, mean guy on the mound.
And on the show, apparently.
And in life. All right. But you know who should be angry? Derek Shelton. Did you hear the news that the Pirates just fired their manager, Derek Shelton?
Just happened.
Just happened.
This is ridiculous. But yes, I saw it.
Yeah, so the Pirates started off 12-26 to start the year, and nobody thought that they would be any better because, quite frankly, they did absolutely nothing this offseason. Is it Derek Shelton's fault that they have one guy in that lineup that actually scares you? That they have one great player on that team who's a pitcher who can only get on the mound every 5 days? Was that Derek Shelton's fault?
I don't get this. I understand not being happy at being 12-26. Who would be happy at 12-26, right? But when we're sitting there, we're looking at this
Colorado team, Rockies might be happy at 12-26.
Well, compared to what it is now, but even then, like this has been a horrible season. Yeah. But we knew this was going to happen. Like, this was exactly what we talked about in the offseason. They didn't make any moves. They sat back on basically the same exact team that they had. They made zero moves to get better. They've got some of the brightest young pitching staff in baseball, and unfortunately one of them got hurt. And so Jared Jones got hurt, and they're looking there at Paul Skeens, Mitch Keller, Bailey Falter, and like we're looking at the next future of the Pirates, but they did absolutely freaking nothing to help that pitching staff out. They didn't really get any better in the bullpen. They got some guys, but they didn't get any better in bullpen. From a lineup situation, yeah, they brought in like a Tommy Pham. They brought in some guys, but it wasn't moving the needle. Tommy Pham at this point, I like him. I played with him, but he's not good enough for his attitude at this point.
Yep.
When he's batting 180, like he's got a chip on his shoulder, and I like that. And it works on a good team, and he's a great defensive replacement. He can go in and steal some bags, do et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But when you're sitting at a lineup and you got Brian Reynolds, who is struggling, and then you got Andrew McCutchen, and that's it. And Joey Bart was your huge, trade last year, and your O'Neal Cruz is the next future, but he's not progressing the way we all expected him to or want him to do. He's not becoming O'Neal. He's not becoming De La Cruz. He's staying as O'Neal Cruz. We've got problems with this lineup. We've got problems with this team. There's problems up and down this roster.
Yeah, I mean, and let's go through it. If you were a starting pitcher, or I mean, even a relief pitcher, and I go to you, okay, David, you're going to have to pitch around. Tell me who you're going to pitch around in this lineup. Joey Bart, Does he scare you?
Nope.
Henry Davis?
No.
Adam Frazier?
Wait, who did you say was the last one?
Henry Davis. Backup catcher. Adam Frazier? No.
No. God, no. No.
Peguero?
No.
Triolo?
Who?
Jared Triolo.
That's the joke. No.
Yeah, exactly. Emmanuel Valdez, Alexander Canario, O'Neal Cruz.
No.
Matt Gorski.
O'Neal Cruz can hurt you.
Yes.
So in certain situations, O'Neal Cruz, yes, because he can't hit the ball very hard. It's just when is he going to do it? He can steal bases. He's going to have, by the way, a lot of stolen bases this year. He's already has 15.
Matt Gorski. Who? All right, Andrew McCutchen. Yeah, 10 years ago he scared you.
10 years ago. Now he's a hitter, and he can still put together professional at bats. But again, Andrew McCutchen is a great addition as a veteran to a lineup.
Yeah, he would have been perfect for a team like Baltimore to go over there and help some of those young stars that have a lot of talent.
But this lineup too, they're no longer young at this point. Yeah, so Neil Cruz 2 years in, but Brian Reynolds has 5 years in, and we know he's a good hitter. You just got to figure it out. Obviously, McCutchen's got 15, but Joey Bart's got 3 full years. Hayes is 4 years. Frazier's 8 years. Tommy Pham over 9 years. This isn't like a lineup. It's not Baltimore where you're dealing with a whole bunch of really young players, or even Colorado, or the Athletics where you're dealing with a bunch of young players.
Yeah,
this is an older lineup with a couple young guys sprinkled in and young guys on the bench, but it's not a lineup. No one. At the end of the day, I'm going through this lineup and I'm pitching to everybody except for in a big situation. I'm going to be careful of Cruz, and Cutchin will get a hit in big situations, and that's it.
Yeah, and like we said, Tommy Pham can do some things once in a while. Brian Reynolds hasn't done anything. I mean, you're more afraid of Tommy Pham if you're a fan in the park.
If I'm in the outfield near Tommy Pham and a ball's coming at me, I'm more afraid of him like retaliation than I am at him pitching. And again, that's tough with this lineup. That's tough what we say, but at the end of the day, it's true. And none of these things were addressed in the offseason. They didn't go out there. They didn't spend money. They didn't even like bring their guys like Paul Skeens in 3 years, 4 years is going to be just bringing in boatloads of money or trade value. So they didn't sign him to a big time long-term deal before he got to the big leagues, which they should have. And so now you're going to look at in 4 years and I'm going to have Paul Skeens.
No. And that's why, if you remember last year and everybody said, oh, you're crazy. If I'm the Pirates, I legitimately think about trading Paul Skeens and seeing how much I can get. I understand he's the face of the franchise, but he cannot help you that much. He's going to get 30 starts, and that's the bottom line. If you could get, and you're not going to get him now, not going to get, no question about it, but if you could get Jackson Holliday and Kobe Mayo and maybe an everyday player, that's the kind of move you do. That's what winning teams do.
Yes. And so when we're looking at this and we start breaking down the numbers from an offensive standpoint, they're basically second to worst in Major League Baseball, and they're sandwiched between the Rockies and the White Sox. So no really shocker there. From a pitching standpoint, they're a little bit better. They're 22nd worst in baseball. So they got some better there compared to their hitting side, but we knew the hitting side was going to be horrible going into it. It has stayed horrible. Their bullpen is middle of the road in the National League, if not middle of the road to back end of the National League, sitting there with a 4.26 right now in this season. And so there's really not a whole lot of good things going on in this team and really anywhere besides that rotation. David Bednar, who was their best closer a couple of years ago, really, really good in the league a couple of years ago, has had a bad season last year, has not been good this year. Again, has kind of continued bad stuff. They've got some guys doing okay in the bullpen, but okay. And still not even great, and that's the thing about it. Their best guy right now is Dennis Santana, and that's really it.
It's ugly. It's an ugly team, and why they didn't fire Sherrington, I don't understand. That's the guy who should have gotten fired. And look, I'm not looking for anybody to lose their job, except for a couple of guys. Mike Elias, the GM of the Baltimore Orioles, deserves to be fired. But those two guys, I mean, we've been saying it for weeks and weeks and weeks.
I completely disagree with you. Mike Elias needs to be fired. Mike Elias needs a giant slap in the face, because none of these prospects would be there if it wasn't for Mike Elias and what he did in that organization to change it. So none of those things would be there. They just need a giant slap in the face and say, wake up, do something.
Well, he needs a co-GM then.
Because that's why they're even in this position, is because of him.
Right. Then they need a co-GM. Let him be the GM of acquiring young talent, and then get someone who can actually get major league talent.
Develop, and then Dombrowski like on the big league level to trade.
Yes, exactly.
But Shelty, at the end of the day, the conversation here is about Derek Shelton. Derek Shelton does not deserve to be fired. At the same time, he's a dead duck for a couple of years. So that's the hard part is, what do you say here? Now, the best thing that's going to happen to Derek Shelton is getting fired, because he's going to go out and get an opportunity somewhere else. He's going to be a bench coach tomorrow. Or if he wants to, he'll have any opportunity he wants to go to, and he's going to be one of the most sought after coaches in the coaching ranks this offseason. It depends on what he wants to do and what opens up when it opens up. If I am the White Sox, I'm looking right at him. I'm screaming at him. If I'm the Rockies, I might be screaming at him. If I'm a lot of other teams, the Rangers, what they're figuring out with Bochy at some point, right? Yeah. That's going to happen at some point. If I'm a lot of teams, I'm looking right at Derek Shelton saying, I need you here at the very least right now as a consultant, as a bench coach. He will have a job very soon, and it will probably come with a playoff opportunity from a team.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it just based on the win-loss record, they got rid of him, but that was completely misleading, and I feel very bad for Derek Shelton. While we are talking about the win-loss situation, I wanted to go around the league. We're almost at the quarter point right now. I wanted to go around the league and take a look at who's doing what, and you tell me, are they overachieving, underachieving? So we'll start in the National League, since we were talking about the Pirates. And let's start with that NL Central. So you got the Chicago Cubs at 22-16, second place Cincinnati Reds, Milwaukee Brewers, St. Louis Cardinals, and then the Pirates taking up the rear 12-26. When you look at the standings, are they going to stay the same? What do you think? Who surprised you, etc.?
Nothing surprised me about this. Maybe that Milwaukee's 500. I thought they'd be a little better than 500, but again, it's still early in this point. This is exactly how I thought it was going to end up. Cardinals, Reds, again, we talked about, you thought the Reds were better than this, but this is exactly how we thought it would end up. I just didn't think Pirates would be this bad.
Yeah, I still believe in the Reds, especially since Ellie De La Cruz has cut down on his strikeouts. I believe that this team is going to get a little better than this. But, a couple games, 3 games over 500 in that wild card race, I can see it. The Cubs are a lot better than I thought they would be. Their offense is tremendous. But, yeah, this is the way it's probably going to end up in this division. We'll move on to the NL West. No surprise, the Los Angeles Dodgers are 25-12, best record in the league, followed by San Diego at 23-13, San Francisco Giants in third place, Diamondbacks in fourth, and Colorado Rockies in last place with a whopping 6-29 record. What are you looking at here, David?
Well, the Rockies being this bad, especially they have some good young talent. I didn't think they'd be this bad. And they haven't even played the West yet, which is the scary thing. They haven't played the monster of the West and all those games. And then the Giants 24-14. I wasn't expecting this by any means. I thought they'd be more of a 500 ball club. Again, they're hitting on all cylinders. Everything is working out really well for them. We know the Padres were capable of this. We know the Dodgers were. I just didn't know what the Padres were going to do it. We talked about this a lot. I didn't think they were going to do it, but you just don't know what Padres team is going to show up. It could be the best in baseball and the worst in baseball in 2 days in a row. It's kind of what they've done the last couple of years. And so you didn't know who they were going to show up. And they're literally a game and a half behind the Dodgers. And again, that series really hasn't gotten started at all yet. So this is really interesting. But to me, it's the Rockies playing so bad and the Giants playing so good.
You know what really upsets me, though, when I look at the NL West? I think of one player. There's just one player that I'm thinking of when I look at these standings, and it's not my favorite player. It's not Ohtani. It's Fernando Tatis and how good he has been, and that's a big reason why the Padres are this good. But tell me if I'm not wrong for thinking in the back of my head, oh, please don't get popped again. You're playing so well. Please don't tell me it's a steroid issue again.
Thinking that. The only time he's ever really played well is he got popped. And so we have to think that. That's going to be in the back of your mind at all times.
But we know that he has all-world talent, and when he wants, he is one of the top 10 best players in baseball. The guy's amazing, but I really hope that he doesn't get suspended. I really hope that this isn't artificial.
100%.
And, of course, then we are going to move on to my favorite division in baseball. I think the most competitive division in baseball, the NL East, where my New York Mets are 24-14 in first place with the Philadelphia Phillies, who I still believe will probably win the division. I think it's been very, very hot start for the New York Mets, followed by the Braves, the Nationals, and the Marlins. Tell me what you're thinking.
Nothing special here. Nothing that stands out. The only thing is the Braves started out so poor, but they played very good baseball since, and they will get better, and that rotation will hopefully get healthy and get going, and Acuna kind of get back at some point. That team will start hitting it. Just a matter of when they get that stride. That's a team that Derek Shelton might be like super on and trying to get him in just to like be a consultant on that team with the Braves. But there's nothing in this division that has surprised me at all.
There is one name that people around the league, and I know his name very well, you know his name very well, me being a New York fan, you being a former teammate of him. There's a guy that doesn't get enough credit around baseball, or at least hasn't until now, and that is Mr. Jeremy Hefner and the pitching lab. He's incredible. I mean, you look at that Mets rotation and what they've done this year, there's no big names on that. Okay, Kodai Senga is sort of a big name, but who's that big ace that you see on that Mets staff? Nobody.
No one, and they've done an amazing job, especially in the past where they've put so much money in the rotation, and they have not in this rotation, best rotation in baseball as far as ERA, and they're doing an amazing job on the pitching side.
Yeah. In fact, when I was playing softball last week and I was helping one of the other pitchers, they started calling me Jeremy Hefner because the guy started pitching really well. I told them I want my pitching lab, but no money. All right. Let's move on to the AL side. And in the AL East, I'm a little surprised, but not super surprised that the Yankees are 21-16. You were much higher on them than I was. I still think they are destined to fail at some point. You look at Cody Bellinger's hitting sub 200. There's still some guys on that team that are not doing everything. But when you have Aaron Judge hitting 400, showing by far he's the most dominant hitter since Barry Bonds, you're going to win some games. My only question is, why in the hell is anybody still pitching to him? Because that makes no sense. Followed by the Red Sox, who I thought would win the division there at 19-19 at 500. Obviously, they just lost their first baseman, Tristan Casas. That's going to be a blow. And they are not putting.
To be honest, I think they're going to be a better team.
Okay.
I'm going to say it. Someone has to say it. Tristan Casas to me has been a big letdown.
Okay. Tampa Bay Rays at 16-20 in third place. Toronto at 16-20. I'm very surprised by that. I thought they were going to be better. And Baltimore at 13-22. Mike Elias, do something, you bum.
So, two things. The Yankees are not surprising, or three things. Yankees are not surprising. Red Sox, I thought, would have a couple more wins than this, but again, they're not far behind the Yankees. The Blue Jays, I thought they would be doing better, but 4 games ago, they were 16-16, then they lost 4 in a row, so now they're 16-20. Again, that's how things can slip.
Ebbs and flows in baseball.
And the Orioles, I thought they'd be at least 500, if not better than 500.
Have you had a chance to watch many Oriole games or any Oriole games this year?
No.
Okay. I had the opportunity to watch a game the other day. Man, do I like the way Shigano pitches. That guy is just fun to watch. He doesn't have that overpowering stuff, but it's like watching, maybe a little Tom Glavine-ish if I wanted to think about a comp, but I really enjoyed watching him pitch.
And that was one of the better signs all offseason.
Yeah. And he's one of the few reasons why they have 13 wins, because he's 100%. Kept them in those ball games.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to the Central. We got the Detroit Tigers 23-13 in first place, the Guardians 22-15, Kansas City 22-16, Minnesota 17-20, and the Chicago White Sox at 10-27, taking up the rear. Nothing
here. I think this is all playing out really good, other than the division itself, just everybody playing really well. Yes, the Twins are a little below 500, fine, but the Tigers are playing so good. Guardians are playing so good. I don't know how they're 22-15 with a minus 14 run differential, but they're figuring that out. The Royals are 22-16, again, 8-2 in their last 10, and five wins in a row is a great, that put them in a lot better spot. The whole division's playing really good baseball, and it doesn't matter. You got to watch out for everybody besides the White Sox.
And you mentioned run differential. The Detroit Tigers have the highest run differential with plus 65 in Major League Baseball. I want to know anybody who bet on that.
Yes. Insane.
Finally, the AL West. We have my AL team, the Seattle Mariners, in first place, with the Athletics in second, Houston in third, Texas Rangers sub 500 at 18-19, and the perennial losers, the Los Angeles Angels. And yes, as a Met fan, I am allowed to say that the Los Angeles Angels, the perennial losers, are 15-20 in last place.
Rangers being a game below 500 is the one for me. Outside of this, everything's pretty dang good. We know the Mariners are going to be good. I thought the Athletics were going to be the best turnaround in baseball, which they are already at this point. The Astros, exactly what we are. The Angels, exactly what we thought they were, basically. And it really comes down to the Rangers for me. But being 3-7 in the last 10, they were in first place about a week and a half ago. Being 3-7 in the last 10 has really, really hurt them. And that's the difference for me, is that Rangers team is better than this, a better baseball team than this. Be heads up with them, but the Mariners are playing good baseball. What I noticed from last time we talked, their offense has really turned it on at home. They're hitting now like 220 at home, where they were hitting 180 or something, 190 at home before that. So they've really turned it on at home. And the flip is still the problem, though, is like on the road versus home, they're a lot different team. But like I told you, on the road, they are a beast, and they would be the best baseball team in all of baseball if they played on the road every single game.
Yeah, and we actually had a comment on one of our videos that we were talking about Seattle, and I wanted to make something perfectly clear if that gentleman is watching, whose name I forget. I didn't say that they didn't have any prospects. They have prospects. The problem that I said was they didn't have any prospects that were ready to come up right now and contribute, and you have a very small window when you have the best pitching staff in baseball. That's when you need hitting. It's not going to help you in 2 years if all those guys in the Seattle Mariners farm system come up if all your pitchers are washed or hurt or gone.
And that's the problem. And that's what the comment didn't really pay attention to. What we were trying to say is they've got a lot of prospects, and they got Harry Ford, Cole Young sitting there in AAA, but then they got most of all their prospects in A ball and A plus or A ball, and even Harry Ford and Cole Young, like they can get in there. But the rotation is so good right now that's the problem, is by the time those guys get up, they're going to have to pay all these pitchers. We know they don't want to spend any money. Something has to give at some point.
And as we all know, anybody who's been following me and David for years knows I hate effing prospects. I just don't like them because 1 out of 10 pan out. You know, you get 10 prospects, you might have one all-star player, you might have one guy who plays 10 years in the league, and then the other 8 are cups of coffee in the major leagues if they ever make it. And that's why I don't trust prospects. You remember what a prospect Joey Bart was?
Right.
I mean,
absolutely.
That's really the bottom line. All right.
Prospect who the Duquette always said this, or one of them, prospects are great. Like parades are better.
Oh, that was our friend Casey Stern that came up with that.
Casey Stern?
Yeah. I cannot stand prospects. I just don't like them, especially in the baseball card world, but I digress. I saw a very interesting tweet that you sent out yesterday or the day before talking about the Los Angeles Dodgers and their pitching and talking about how maybe somebody better be looking at their development of pitching and their medical staff, because this team is getting hurt a lot in the starting rotation. And we do have one pitcher who's going to be coming back hopefully relatively soon, and that's Shohei Ohtani. So I asked Mr. 69, the pitching guru, to look at it and tell us when he's going to come back, based on the fact that we need Shohei Ohtani to be 100% by the playoffs. So if there's no restrictions on Shohei Ohtani for game 1 of the playoffs, what's the timeline going backwards, David? Help us out here.
Okay, so yes, I sent that tweet out about the Dodgers. I don't know what's happening in the Dodgers organization. I don't want to speak to it. It could be just a run of bad luck, and that is perfectly fine, and that happens. But if I am in the front office of this Dodgers team and I am sitting there and I'm not running a full organizational try to check and try to find out what's happening, I am not doing my job. The Dodgers, while being one of the very best, if not the best organization at developing talent, we've given them this title over and over again, that they keep driving pitching development and keep bringing these guys up, and it is amazing. I ask you basically a question. If they're so great at pitching development, pitching talent, why are they all getting hurt? Why are they all consistently being on the IL? And this is something that frustrates me. Yamamoto right now, Sasaki, great job. You guys have been healthy with Sasaki. We'll see how that all plays out as the season goes. But almost every pitching prospect that they have brought out has not been able to stay healthy. We can look at Walker Buehler. He has had 2 Tommy Johns since he'd gotten drafted. We can go Dustin May has not been able to stay healthy for his career. Tony Gonsolin had just coming off an injury. And now we go to the rest of the list. The rest of the list starts getting crazy. I cannot, Tyler Glass now, I don't want to say the Dodgers did this. At the same time, he was a Dodger when he got hurt. Kyle Hurt, Clayton Kershaw. I know that's different. He's extremely old, and you can't blame it, the Dodgers, but at the same time, he did get hurt. I don't want to put him on this list. He's on a different list. River Ryan, Emmett Sheehan, Blake Snell, Gavin Stone. I mean, every single one of these aren't just little like ankle injuries. Tommy John, shoulder problems. We can go down to the bullpen. Gratterall, Grove, Kopech, Evan Phillips just went on the IL. Blake Trinan. I know some of these guys had some history stuff, but every
Kopech
one of these guys. What'd you say?
Kopech especially. You can't blame the Dodgers for Kopech.
At the same time, he came to the Dodgers healthy and then got hurt.
Okay, but you can say the same thing for Jacob deGrom when he went to, to the Rangers. He had a history.
He had a Tommy John. Right, like Tommy John should be something you're fine with, and Tommy John should be something you within a couple of years you're totally fine.
Right.
Like the next year back, like 2 years back or whatever, Kopech is hurt again with forearm. Yeah. That's not normal. That's not normal. What are they doing, or what are they allowing, or what's going on? Anyways, Shohei Ohtani, and you can't blame the Dodgers at all for Shohei Ohtani. Obviously, he signed him with Tommy John, which is the second Tommy John of his career already. At this point, it's kind of looking like they might need him. They might need him. You got Yamamoto, Sasaki, Dustin May, Gonsolin, and Knack right now in that rotation. Knack's a young guy coming up. Again, not young. He's 28, but he doesn't have a whole lot of service time. So when you look at Ohtani and say, how do we get him for the playoffs? If we want him ready for day 1 of the playoffs, which is, what is it?
The day after the end of the regular season?
Yeah, good job. 1 day after the regular season. September 30th would be his day 1, would be day 1 of playoffs. So I read some about his progress, about what people are expecting when they want him back. If you want him day 1 of the playoffs, and this actually works out to be on a very good every 5-day game schedule, so every day it would be 6 every now and then. If you started him actually the first day game back after the All-Star break, that puts him as the start for day 1 of the playoffs. It is almost perfect timing on a 5-day rotation. Again, there'll be 6 days in there. There'll be double headers and stuff like that. It is Dodgers, so there won't be any home double headers probably, right. But they're mostly on the road when you get on the East Coast during the summer. It just happens. That would also put him at 13 starts. And that is a perfect situation for me. That is a perfect spot if you've been taking your time, taking extremely long to get ready and to come back. If you choose to put him on that mound, you get him for 13 starts and day 1 of the playoffs.
How do you manage his starts? For example, his first start after the All-Star break. How many pitches are you letting him throw?
So a couple of interesting things about the All-Star break, and this is what I was thinking. He's going to be an All-Star. So that's not going to be a normal all-star break for him. So he's not going to sit there and be able to throw a bullpen like everybody else, or rest and be ready and throw like his normal trajectory time. But actually, if it was a first game after the all-star break, that might be perfect, where right before the all-star break, you throw him in a simulated game and you get him building up. The hard part with Shohei Ohtani is you need simulated games. You need to build up his innings and his pitch count away from the field. And generally you do this in minor league stints.
Right.
But they won't be able to do that in minor league stints. He's a live pitcher in the big league. He's a live hitter in the big leagues. So you don't get to, he's not going down to the minors. So when we're talking about Blake Snell, let's say Blake Snell comes back and he's normal injury coming back, he would throw every 5 days, every 6 days in the minor leagues and maybe different cities and build up his innings, go from a couple of innings down in the complex here in Glendale, Arizona. Then you go for 3 innings down somewhere else, 4 innings, 5 innings. You build up that pitch count. He's not going to be able to get to do that. You're going to kind of have to do it in the big leagues or before the game. So he's going to be throwing live BPs and like 50, 60 pitch live BPs, which is not normal, in the big leagues for rehab guys. So he's going to be really interesting to see how some of these games go. If he pitches see if he hits in games. He might take a day off or 2 every now and then for those days where he has to throw 3 innings before the game. I would not be surprised if you saw him in some some relief innings to start. Maybe if you come out July 18th, first game against the Brewers after the All-Star game, and see him coming out of the bullpen for 2-3 innings, or for a opener situation. Right. And that's the big thing, is you have him as that opener. You get him for 2 innings, 3 innings, a scheduled 3 innings start, and then you bring your normal starter in, or you have the relief bullpen day that day. But to me, you manage it like that. You start. I need to see him at least go 2 innings for that first outing, see how he does. Maybe 2 innings the next time, 3 innings, and then build up from there. And I'm expecting 15 pitches an inning, 15 less, 12 to 15 per inning. And I'm managing it like that. If I got 2 innings, I want 30. If I got 3 innings, I want 45. But you also kind of got to get those numbers too. So if he goes 2 innings and he's at 12 pitches, I might have to send him or send him down to the bullpen, send him back out for a third, or send him to the bullpen, because sometimes the innings count, because you're warming up, it's the up and down, which matter when you sit down for 15 minutes and then you have to get up and throw, or today's baseball where you're sitting down for like 5-8 minutes with these innings, how fast they are. Or send him down to the bullpen to finish his inning out down there.
Why don't you just make him the opener for Blake Snell, so that way Blake Snell can actually get to the 9th inning for once?
Right? He's done it once.
For twice. Sorry, my mistake. But look, he can't pitch 7-8 innings. He doesn't. So why don't you schedule it so that Ohtani goes on the same day as Blake Snell, and you're going to get at least a couple of innings in for Ohtani.
If he pitches again this year, yes.
Yeah. So your guesstimate, what you would do if you were the pitching coordinator with the Dodgers, would be game 1 after the All-Star break.
Game 1 after the All-Star break, I would like him on the mound as long as I can get my hands on him during that All-Star break, have him make sure he's throwing, and make sure he's throwing bullpens and it's controlled. The All-Star game is in Atlanta.
Is it? I never pay attention to the All-Star game.
I think so. I think it's in Atlanta this year. So that is, at least you can probably control that a little bit. That's going to be, that's the only hard part. But you send your own catcher down. You'll send your own like a bullpen catcher down.
It's the Dodgers. They'll build a stadium down there if they need to for Ohtani.
For him and he'll throw consistently if he has to down there. But he'll need to throw a bullpen before it, around the All-Star game or like the home run derby day, and be ready for the game, that first game for me. That's what I want.
You going to Vegas anytime soon?
Yes, sir.
Can you go to the sports book and see if there's a way to bet on when Ohtani actually comes back? That might be like a good 1,000 to 1 shot money proposition. The exact day he comes back.
They'll take the bet. I mean, they'll take any bet.
Of course they will. You should try to make some money off of that, bud.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. I got a pitching question for you before we move on to our next thing. I was watching the Orioles Kansas City Royals game the other day. Of course, I love both teams. They're just great. And I got to watch Shigano, and they had a rain delay after the first. You were just talking about, that 15 minutes, warming up in between innings, et cetera, et cetera. What is the most that you would allow a pitcher to sit out during a rain delay before yanking them?
Are you saying we've already started the game?
Yeah, we've already started the game. Shigano came out for game 1. So they brought him out for inning 1. They brought him out for inning 2 after, again, nobody kill me if it was between inning 2 and 3, but I think it was between inning 1 and inning 2. There was a rain delay. And the commentators were saying how this was probably the max that they would allow a pitcher to go before yanking him. What is your number? You have an amount of time in your head?
Depends on each pitcher. A lot of guys, some pitchers will need a lot of time to warm up again. Some guys are just feel good, let's go. And you just have consistent communication with that. 45 minutes is probably my max.
Okay. Because the two pitchers in that game, they let them go for an hour in between.
Yeah, that's probably around that. But again, when it's an hour, you're at 30 minutes, it's coming. Yeah. So you've been sitting down for 30 minutes. Like, okay, we're going to get going in 30 minutes. Let's go. Let's start prepping again. That's the difference. A lot of times when anything more than that, they give you like a 30 minutes heads up or 20-minute heads up. So like within an hour, you kind of have a heads up coming. And somebody can stay warm. Like a long inning can last 15, 20 minutes. So an hour is probably my max. After that, I got to go to the bullpen. Sometimes it's your rotation and your bullpen set up for that day. You look at the guy in the eyes and say, hang with him, dude. And I'm surprised that Sugano did it, especially with his age. Mm-hmm. I'm very surprised with that. Usually it's younger guys that you're okay with that. But again, a lot of it has to do with the pitcher and this like communication. They're like, yeah, I'm good. Like, dude, I'm fine. I'll be ready. And you know that about your pitchers.
So this is why I love doing the show with you, because I just get to find out stuff that the average person doesn't. And I have a very high baseball IQ, but who's going to say this? Who's going to talk about this? You don't get to hear this kind of crap on WFAN or EEI or even on ESPN.
Well, you'll hear it. They're just completely making it up, though.
Yeah. I have a pitching guru, Mr. 69. And if you want your own pitching guru, Mr. 69, where's the place to go, David?
Top Velocity Pro. Come hit me up. The summer is coming. You want to make a difference for next year. Do not wait. Do not sit around. Time is an asset. Use it on your side. Hit me up on all socials, Top Velocity Pro or the DA53. Send me a message. Go to the website. Give me a call. Let's talk pitching. Let's talk your son or you or whoever it is. We just produce throwers, and we look at it holistically from the ground up. Build you up into the best athlete, best thrower you possibly can be. And just send me a line. Let's see it. Send some video, and let's make you a better pitcher.
I sent you some video last week. What did you think of the video? How are my mechanics?
Do you not like the big swing back?
You're not allowed to.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You're not allowed to. So if anybody didn't watch last week's show, don't know what we're talking about. So I am a softball pitcher, and one of the better ones in Brooklyn, and I'm not using that as hyperbole. I'm actually really good. I almost threw my second no-hitter this past week, and I allowed one hit and one walk over 5 in a wonderful mercy rule where we won 14-0. But David, you actually helped me because I asked you, how can I stretch? How can I get that part right here? And I don't have any pain under here this week. Now, granted, I threw about 200 less pitches, but it did make a huge difference. So if you want your own pitching guru, talk to Mr. David Aardsma. Top Velocity Pro, the man, the myth, the legend, the man we call Mr. 69, and it's not for his prowess in the bedroom, although from what I understand from Andrea, that's pretty good, but we call it Mr. 69 because he has exactly 69 saves.
Yes.
Awesome.
That's the only reason.
Now, before we get to Mount Rushmore, I know we don't talk a lot of football on this show, but Shedeur Sanders, a fan is suing the NFL for emotional distress because Sanders went in the 5th round. David, if we could sue the leagues because our favorite players got screwed over or our teams screw us over, I would be a billionaire as a Mets, Jets, and Knicks fan. I would love to sue MLB for everything Chase Utley has done to the New York Mets, or Pat Burrell, or just from what the Wilpons put me through. David, if you were going to sue Major League Baseball for distress, who would you sue them over?
Who would I sue them over? The one, how they keep stats errors is the biggest joke in my book, that there's no mental error. So a ball lands in between 3 fielders. There could be a ball land in between all 9 fielders. They could have a circle, hit a ball straight up in the air, and it lands literally 1 foot from everybody, and that's a hit. That, to me, blows my mind. The idea of how they do holds blows my mind. That has been mental distressing me for a long time. And my other one would be, oh my God, I can't believe I've forgotten his name right here at this very moment. But the only man I've ever given up 2 home runs to.
Alex Rios.
Oh, I want to sue Alex Rios for just draining my soul. Still to this day, I hear about it.
In fact, you heard from me yesterday I don't know why I went down this rabbit hole yesterday of looking up your stats for certain players. There are certain guys that you just absolutely dominate. That, David, I mean, you owned some guys where you're just like, how? But then there's some other guys you're like, how the hell did they do that to you? And Alex Rios was a good player, but not the guy who should be giving you that kind of grief.
You know what a term comes down to is how he swung versus how I pitched and the ball moved, and he had a really flat swing at the top of the zone, and I threw baseballs basically right to where he wanted it. Unfortunately, I would have just walked him if I could have now at this point. Torrey Hunter just gave me this fits my entire life. Alex Rios, though, the only man that hit 2 home runs. No, but if you want to talk some other guys like Nick Swisher, like Jorge Posada,
the number 1 prospect last year, Jackson Holliday, you owned his daddy.
Yes, I did.
You made him look like your bitch.
I did well against Holliday.
No, you made him your bitch. Let's call it what it is.
He's 1 for 7,
something like that. I think he has the lowest OPS of all time against you with a minimum 5 appearances. I think that's what it was. I'm just going to look at my texts yesterday because I was sending this to you yesterday.
Lowest, Jorge Posada was...
Jorge Posada, you
5
killed Jorge.
0 for 7. Evan Longoria, 0 for 6. And then some other guys. Travis Hafner, 0 for 5.
Yeah, those are some pretty good guys that you dominated.
Brian Roberts, 1 for 7. Josh Hamilton, 0 for 5.
Yeah. Not too shabby, my boy.
All right. 1 for 5. 1 for 7. There you go.
What do you say we go to our favorite part of the show and end it, as always, with our Mount Rushmore?
Can you show that graphic again? Look at the second guy from the left. That's awesome. He looks like he's wearing a fake cap on his head. It's great.
It's glorious.
I love those graphics.
I know you do, buddy. I know you do. All right, let's get it started. Who is your number 1 guy on the Twins Mount Rushmore?
So this is a different one too. So it's really cool. I'm interested if we had to play our Mount Rushmore versus Mount Rushmores of anybody. This Mount Rushmore could compete with any Mount Rushmore that you put out there. It is there because you also get all of the old Washington team.
Yeah.
And so back in the day, the Twins franchise, but it goes back in the day. So I'm going to start in 1907 to 1927, Walter Johnson.
I mean, do you really have to say anything more than Walter Johnson? I mean, there is a reason why none of us have seen him pitch and know just how dominant, how great he was. Just truly a machine on the mound.
There was no Cy Young back in the day because he pitched against Cy Young.
Yeah.
And he was shoving it up against Cy Young, but he won 2 MVPs, an MVP 3, MVP 5, MVP 17, MVP 20, 417 victories, which is not the most in baseball because there was a guy called Cy Young. 2.17 ERA, pitching Triple Crown. He won it 3 times. This dude was incredible. Led Major League Baseball history in shutouts with 110. The Washington Senators that won the World Series in 24. Obviously, Hall of Famer, one of the greatest baseball players, if not arguably the greatest pitcher of all time.
It would have been great if there was a Cy Young award while Cy Young was pitching, because Walter Johnson can say, "Look, I won the U award." That would be awesome. All right.
Was it the...
What's that? I'm sorry, David. I didn't hear you.
What was his nickname? Is it the Big Train?
Yes.
Yes, the Big Train. How cool is that nickname?
I mean, I'd rather have the Big Unit, but Big Train's pretty good.
Big Train's pretty dang good. He was, I'm looking at this, 6'1", 200. For his age and stuff, they said he was a massive, huge pitcher.
Yeah.
It makes me feel good about myself.
Dude, that's only 1 inch taller than me and like 20 pounds lighter. He's not that big. All right. Next guy, a man who is known not only for his baseball prowess, but his pop culture reference. Hall of Famer Rod Carew. He converted.
Is that the line? He converted?
Hall of Famer.
And Adam Sandler?
Yeah.
I love it. I didn't know that.
Song.
Rod Carew played 12 seasons for the Minnesota Twins. Absolutely crushed it. One of the best hitters of all time as a pure baseball hitter. Played 1,635 games. Hit 334 for the Twins. 468 extra base hits, 733 RBIs, 271 stolen bases. Was an all-star 12 times. He was there for 12 years. He was an all-star 12 times. He missed the all-star game 1 time his entire career because he finished with the California Angels at the end. But he was an MVP 1, MVP 5, 9, 4, 7, and then Rookie of the Year. Did everything. Hall of Famer in 91. Numbers retired for Minnesota. Just one of the pure hitters of all time. When you really talk about pure hitters, he kind of gets pushed down on that list a little bit when you talk about Tony Gwynn and Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio, some of these pure hitters of all time. But the dude hit 330 for a career. And it's not like he had no pop. He had 92 home runs, but again, he was a pure hitter for pure hitter. And when you look across the league in the years, like there's a whole lot of black in his numbers where he led the league in. On base and batting average. I mean, the dude hit 364, 388 one year. 388.
No, he ain't that good.
Good.
He's very, very underappreciated. Can you imagine if he played in New York, how much he'd be loved? I mean, we always talk about how Derek Jeter is overrated because he played in New York. I mean, Derek Jeter, great player, but wouldn't have been first ballot, more votes than Griffey if he played in Minnesota. There ain't no chance in hell. He might not have even gotten in on the first ballot. He might have taken second or third ballot. Rod Carew, though.
I don't believe that, but yes.
All right, whatever. Yes, okay, he might have stayed on the first ballot if he was in Minnesota, but regardless, just underappreciated Rod Carew. All right, let's move on. Harmon Killebrew, the man who was on the logo.
He is the logo, isn't he?
I believe he
forgot about that. Harmon Killebrew, absolute just demon hitter. He is currently number 12th all time in home runs, 573. And you got to think how many times like he's been passed. So like I don't know what he was when he retired, but there, Bonds wasn't there, Pools wasn't there, A-Rod wasn't there, Griffey wasn't there, Tomei wasn't there, Sosa wasn't there. Mark McGwire wasn't there. Frank Robinson. I don't know if Frank Robinson was even there. He was probably had a Frank Robinson when he did. So he might have, like, when he retired, he might have been 3.
Yeah, something like that. He was really high. Really high when he retired.
I don't want to guess on that, but he had to have been up there. Absolutely incredible baseball player. Played every year besides his very last for Minnesota. Won an MVP. 13-time All-Star. Obviously Hall of Famer. Talked about the home runs. 1,540 RBIs. 277 doubles. Led the American League home runs 6 times. MVP in '69. Good year to be an MVP. And was an absolute beast.
Hey, Clippy Jones, can you play the video again? David, I want you to take a look at the video of Harmon Killebrew, and I want you to look at how his follow-through is and his swing, and tell me if he doesn't remind you of anybody. Maybe we're going to be on the same page, or maybe I'm just crazy, but just look at some of the stills. Does that remind you of anybody? His follow-through, the way he's looking at the ball?
Mickey Mantle.
Thank you. Okay, I thought I was crazy. Very, very similar to Mickey Mantle in a lot of ways. Look at that swing right there. That is the Mick.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. But like, he's a lot thicker than the Mick. He was a very large human being. I know my dad was a Minnesota fan. My dad's a Minnesota Twins kind of fan growing up, and I know him and Rod Carew he was huge fans of them.
Yep. All right. Next up, and one of my favorite players when I was a little kid, because unfortunately he didn't play long enough where I would see him in my teenage years, but Kirby Puckett, the man that I also always confused with the singer Wilson Pickett.
Did you really?
Puckett, Pickett, whatever.
Yeah, sure. So Kirby Puckett, if you don't know, unfortunately, career was cut very short. For how great of a baseball player he was. He only played 12 years. He is a Hall of Famer, without a doubt, if there was ever a Hall of Famer. So played 12 years. He was a 10-time All-Star, 6-time Gold Glover, batting title MVP, 2-time World Series champion, 6-time Silver Slugger. He was an MVP of the ALCS, Roberto Clemente Award winner. Overall, just incredible human being, incredible man. Led the league in hits 4 times. Could do it all. Could do absolutely everything. I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, he got hit in the eye.
Yeah.
And that turned into cancer.
I believe that's the case. I'm not a doctor. I don't want to, but yeah, something like that. He got hit in the eye, and then the eye ended up becoming a big problem and caused him to lose his sight, and a big problem. And, he died young, and it's a shame because, like you said, everybody had nothing but super nice things to say about him. Now, granted, I'm not going to just to be a dick, I'm just going to say it. Nobody ever talks ill of the dead. Very often, but still super, super nice guy from all accounts. And it's a shame that we lost him so young. But I just remember when I was a kid watching baseball and collecting baseball cards, and you just knew, oh, okay, who's going to be on the AL All-Star team? You're going to have Wade Boggs, you're going to have Kirby Puckett, you're going to have Canseco or McGuire and Donnie Baseball and Mattingly during those 80s. Those were the guys.
I mean, okay, Rookie of the Year, number 3, MVP 21, MVP 6, MVP 3, MVP 3, MVP 7, MVP 7, MVP 2, MVP 7, MVP 21. He just was amazing across everything. I've never heard a single bad word. Everything was amazing about Kirby Puckett. And again, he was a guy I looked up to as a ball player. I remember watching him in the World Series, center field, just running everything down. And then from a hitting standpoint, he was a guy that could do everything. And he was scary in every single possible way. God, what a ball player.
Yeah, and
died at 45.
Died at 45, and what a shame, too, because it would have been so nice to have another African-American player that could reach out to young African-American kids right now and get them playing baseball more. We don't have enough of those guys, unfortunately. We still have Griffey, we have Bonds, we have McGriff, but we need more African-American players in baseball, and Kirby would have been just such a good guy to introduce more young black kids into baseball, and it's a shame we lost him so young.
Yeah, without a doubt. And he was, I believe, Intercity Chicago. I remember reading a lot about him when I was younger. I believe Intercity Chicago was an athlete in every single thing he did, and he had been an amazing ambassador for the game.
Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for.
He was for when he was.
Yeah. All right. Up next, who is your next man up? And you have two of them. You have a guy that both of us believe got into the Hall of Fame way too early. And then in some cases, a guy who might have gotten into the Hall of Fame a little too late. So we got Joe Mauer and Bert Blyleven.
Bert Blyleven, a great pitcher for the Minnesota Twins. Absolute Dutch man. So I love it. But I believe he got into the Hall of Fame way too late. A lot of people believe he probably accumulated a lot of stats, pitched for a long time at the same time, pitched for a long time, ended up getting 287 wins, 250 losses. That's where you kind of look at it and go yeah, they're really close to each other. At the same time, was always very, very good and very dominant. Cy Young 7, Cy Young 3, Cy Young 3, Cy Young 4. So there was never those years. He never had it just that year where he was the best. And that's kind of where it kind of hurt him probably with a lot of the Hall of Fame stuff. He just never had those years where you're just that's him. He's him. But he ended up pitching amazing, 3.28 ERA, 118 whip, 2,500 innings pitched with the Twins. Ended up winning 149 games with the Twins. Ended up traveling around a whole lot. Yeah. Hall of Famer 11. And then when you're talking about Joe Mauer.
Well, hold on. Before we go to Joe Mauer, I just have a couple quick things that I want to talk about Blyleven. I had the pleasure of getting to know Bert when I was working at MLB Network Radio. He's still, I believe, a broadcaster for the Minnesota Twins. And as a broadcaster, I had him on the show all the time. Super, super nice guy. Was always very nice. And I remember the day that he got into the Hall of Fame, we had him on, and he couldn't have been happier. I was so happy when he got in. But you mentioned the idea of being a compiler. I'm wondering, before we talk about Joe Mauer, just give me 30 seconds on this. Because pitchers do not last anymore, do you think that being a compiler will be something that'll get you into the Hall of Fame in the future? Because if you can last as a pitcher now and get those numbers, you almost should be in the Hall of Fame.
100%. And the Hall of Fame numbers are going to change a lot. Where 250 wins, it's guaranteed. 225 is probably guaranteed. Moving forward, you're looking at Justin Verlander has 260. And the next closest, I think, is Scherzer, 220 something or 217. The 200 win club is going to be the new 300 win club. And it's sad because of it's Major League Baseball's choice and how they evaluate players. It's sad in how they're doing it, but it's going to be what it is.
All right. Let's move on to Joe Mauer, the Minnesota boy, the hometown kid, the guy that they were so ecstatic to get, who cost them a lot of money, but kind of, in my opinion, wasn't worth all that money. I know it's an unpopular position, but I never thought he was as good as people made him out to be.
I thought he was a good catcher, and he was a good bat-to-ball hitter. But I never once in my career was scared of him. Never once cared that he was at the plate other than the fact that he could get a base hit. And so if Justin Morneau wasn't behind him or had already faced Justin Morneau, I didn't care. Yeah. All right, Joe Mauer, who cares? Joe Mauer, one of the lowest wins above replacement in Major League Baseball Hall of Fame history at 55. I get it. It's not the end-all be-all, but Aaron Judge already has more than him. Rob Ventura's more, or Hershiser. You want to go down this list, like Jeff Kent has more, is a higher win above replacement. I would say had a lot more impact in the game. David Ortiz, who never even played in the field his last 10, 15 years, has the exact same. And so you get to some of these really interesting numbers. Ian Kinsler has about the same, and I wouldn't even consider him close to the Hall of Famer.
I wouldn't even give him a vote.
I never even thought Joe Mauer was that great at throwing out guys either. I never considered him a huge threat at the plate or in the mound. There was one year where he had 28 home runs, hit 365. Absolutely. Outside of that, the year before he hit 9, and the year after that he hit 9 home runs. He hit 320. It was the softest 320 by a huge human being ever. At the same time, very good player. Very good player. I had never considered him Hall of Famer, let alone first ballot Hall of Famer. I would say Hall of very good and definitely a conversation about it. But with up and down the list, there was a lot of other guys I'd sit back and be. I mean, Chris Sale has 53.
First ballot. That's egregious.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to say it. He was a great guy. I would also say this. Greatest high school athlete probably of all time. when you go up and down his stats, it is insane. It isn't even a word to use for how good he was in high school.
I'm having a complete mental fart right now, and I know that you pitched to him in spring training. Cardinals catcher, Yadi Molina. I mean, if you give me Yadi Molina, Buster Posey, or Joe Mauer, Joe Mauer's the third best out of that group.
Salvador Perez. Like, there's a lot of guys that I would have probably listed. Now, he was very good. He was always very good.
Very good. Nobody's doubting that. But when
outside of 1 year, never stood out to where I'm like, wow. Outside of that.
Finally, the guy who's on the team right now who has a chance to get in, and on your list, that is Royce Lewis.
I had a lot of hard time with this. I had a really tough time with this because there was no one that really jumps out to me. There's actually a player who I think is better. And who is that player, James?
Better in what terms?
A better baseball player on that team.
It's what's his face?
Byron
Buxton.
Byron Buxton is a much better baseball player and is the best player on that team, if not when healthy, one of the best players in the league. This dude can't stay healthy, can't stay on the field, and has no chance to make this list.
I would say that actually Correa might have a better chance of making that list than Royce Lewis.
No,
if he compiles enough.
No, because he's not a twin. And so that's Correa's career is already so far past.
I'm so sorry. I was thinking Hall of Fame rather than Mount Rushmore. You're 100% right. Forgive me. I apologize.
I smell what you're cooking. It gets interesting when you talked about some of these pitchers, maybe like Joe Ryan, if he ends up like keeps crushing it, if he's healthy and keeps killing it, because he's got pretty good stuff. But Royce Lewis, I just really love his stuff. I love his age. I love how he moves. It's really interesting. I think he's got pop for days. He just needs to put it together for a couple seasons and kind of get going. To me, it's just, it's really Byron Buxton, but he can't stay on the field. Ryan Jeffers is a stud, but again, just none of these guys have really put it together. None of them will make this list. But Joe Ryan is a really interesting one. Duran is an interesting one if he can just keep just shoving. But to me, I see Royce Lewis, there's some talent there that some of those other guys touch, but Royce Lewis can excel. Buxton is obviously the man. It's just he can't stay healthy. He's already 31. He can't stay healthy.
You know what player I always think about when I think about the Minnesota Twins, and he's not going to make the Hall of Fame. He's not even going to make the Mount Rushmore, but a guy who just doesn't get his just due in Twins history, Joe Nathan. I used to love watching that dude pitch.
Ex-Giant Joe Nathan. You weren't ready for that one. Stud. Good. We were friends when we were playing. Lost contact once we stopped playing. We all just go back home and do our things. Right. But he was an absolute stud, and there was a lot of great players on those 2000s Twins teams.
I could never get past the Yankees.
So many good players that just couldn't get over the hump with the Yankees.
But yeah, Joe Nathan, I loved watching that guy pitch.
Dyer, Jesse Crane, Johan Santana.
Johan Santana, the first pitcher to ever throw a no-hitter for the New York Metropolitans. Who I'm desperately trying to get one of his. Excuse me. It's in the books. It's a no-hitter.
Today would have been Hall of Fame. Would have been a no-hitter if he did that 2025. Every ball landed exactly where it landed. Would it have been a no-hitter?
Absolutely not. But it's still a no-hitter in the books. Just like Armando Galarraga. Just like Armando Galarraga doesn't have a perfect game that he threw a perfect game in.
And he threw fact. And don't go back and change history either.
No, under any circumstances. All right, Dave, this is a fun one, man. I enjoyed this one. We got to talk a lot about stuff, and we got to talk about people that should get fired, people that aren't underappreciated, and you gave us a prediction when Ohtani could get back. I couldn't be any happier.
I love it. It's always fun.
Yep. All right, guys, if you enjoyed the show, make sure you like, make sure you comment, tell David why he is awesome in every way. Tell me why I'm just a loser. I'm totally fine with it. We will talk again next week. Bye-bye.